Welcome to Live from Lockdown Library, presented by Bookworm Goa, with your hosts Nayan and Nandita. This is a series of conversations with book and library people where they share their responses to the ongoing global crisis. We're talking social distancing from a community perspective, we're talking access to books and storytelling, but in quarantine. The hope here is to find ways together to reimagine the library, to think of it as a vital, evolving, transcendent space that can both hold and give voice to this moment of intense uncertainty. Presenting live from Lockdown Library.
Hello, I am Nayan, a library educator. I will be your host for this episode of Lockdown Library. Today, we are honored to be speaking to Amrita Patwardhan. Amrita has been working with Tata Trust since 2003. Through her work, she focuses on addressing quality and equity in elementary education. Her interest is the area of early literacy, children's literature, and tribal education. Good evening, Amrita.
Hi, Nayan.
Thanks for joining us today in Lockdown Library.
Sure. Look forward to having a chat with you.
So today we will be talking about different issues around library, access of education and access of children literature to children during this time. So Amrita, as the COVID-19 pandemic triggered a lockdown, we have been confined to our homes and the internet. And you must have witnessed an explosion of online story-related content over past 7 weeks, be it storytelling, book reading, author talks, and many other such activities. We library educators live in a world of story-related content even in the times before the lockdown. So this was our normal. What do you think about this sudden abundance of online content in the field of library work?
It has been heartening to see a degree of opening up in a way of previously, charged resources. So some of the even journals online or some of the resources which were paid resources earlier were made free. So in some ways, I saw an effort to make through publishers, other groups to try and increase the outreach. On the other hand, for any such short duration explosion of material, I think the responsibility for curation goes up even more. So typically when you have lot of resources suddenly, whether it is for a child or even if it is for a teacher or an educator, then the bigger challenge is to be able to sift through all that is suddenly made available to you and really find what you want as well as find things of quality. So I think that is one thought which came to my mind. Even in this apparent explosion, we continue to have the reality of mostly all of this explosion is with regard to English resources. We have relatively limited efforts in other Indian languages. So in some ways, while it's heartening to see an increase in sort of diversity of resources that are available to educators, it is also something where the inequity which has been previously there has also naturally played out even in this duration. So those have been some of my thoughts around what has been unfolding.
Yeah, so you talked about material being available in English. Would you talk more about digital divide? And there are many people who are on the other side of this axis. So how this abundance of resources going to either help them or it's creating the gap, it's further deepening the gap that already exists?
Absolutely. So actually, I really feel that the whole lockdown and the way in which the lockdown has impacted the poorer communities, the migrants, is in a way has really brought out the ugly kind of underbelly of unequal social structure that we all live with, and it has sort of brought it out in kind of full view. I think it's the same in some ways scenario which is playing out vis-a-vis children, their education and their learning opportunities. So while for some children where resources are abundant, largely parents also have both the digital access, know-how, devices that they can spare with children. For them, in many ways, this period has opened up possibilities, and similarly, for a much larger number of our children who are not connected digitally, whose parents are struggling to actually meet two ends in the current lockdown situation, for them, the way in which the lockdown and its impact has played out is very, very different. So we, in fact, in one of our areas of work in UP, when we did a small survey in number of schools where we work with, about 10% of children, the teachers reported, who they have been able to connect digitally and with whom they are starting to do a few activities through lockdown. But that obviously means that the 90% of the children, they are not able to reach out to in this scenario in any manner. So it just highlights the very vast issue that simply trying to jump onto the digital space without addressing the issues of access and equity will in fact result into greater inequity, because some children will be able to carry on their education and their exploration. Some our children in our homes, their schools were quick to start online classes, for example, without losing even a few days, while for a very large majority that is really not right now feasible, because we have also not invested in many of those required steps before the digital space can really be utilized.
We are witnessing many of our library partners and field organization and others engaging with relief work. Often they are the first call organization in their area, or they feel that this is what they must do because it is of urgency and relevance. What do you think about this in light of a vision for libraries?
I do feel, and I certainly organizations, whether it's Muskan or OELP or several other groups, have immediately responded through some sort of relief work with the community, providing dry ration or cooked food in some places, etc. I don't really see that in any way as a wavering of some of these organizations' commitment or vision to the library work, but I as a response and your connectedness with the community when they are faced with survival issues, I think that response is also really important. But only doing that and not working on other issues, of course, that's not going to be possible and should not be the approach either. So I feel in the medium term, at least, how is it that one is able to balance some of these responses to immediate requirements of survival with several requirements of well-being? I think each organization probably has to take a call that is really right for them. But I see some of it as a natural response of organizations who have a deep connect with the community, and right now that need also needs to be responded to along with the educational and overall development needs of children.
So it came as the immediate response to the situation, but as you are saying, it may not be the compromising with the vision and the larger mission on which organizations stand.
Yes, because I feel that some of the organizations who currently are working with very underprivileged communities and children and families, somewhere it also binds them to respond to this kind of a crisis situation. But that doesn't mean that there is any kind of a mission or a vision drift in the process, because I also see them simultaneously trying to figure out also as to what are some of the resources that we can get across to children if food is being taken across, are there any other educational resources as well that we can reach to children? So I think if we actually are able to engage with uh, more closely, we will also find ways in which these two can go kind of hand in hand, because as we just earlier spoke about, the digital is one way of reaching children, but that doesn't reach all the children, and probably the most needy children it doesn't reach. So we also have to really figure out what are the other ways in which we can look at addressing their educational overall well-being, developmental needs as well.
So Amrita, as you said that, we are not able to meet the children and the community with whom we had such a close bond.
Right.
And this is very testing and confusing time for all of us. And this also bears the work we do down to its basic. It requires us to examine our own vision and area of work, whom we want to work with, why, how, and such.
Mm-hmm.
How does this apply to the work that you have been doing?
Actually, in the trust, in education in particular, what we have been also looking at is creation of few audio based resources, trying to explore regional language resources, or curating resources and offering them for consumption of the teachers and children, so that they're not sort of just bombarded with material, but there is some sort of selection, thought, or even some kind of think aloud kind of questions which go along with the story, so that the experience becomes as meaningful as possible, but with full awareness that with all these efforts also you are only reaching a fairly fraction of the subsection which actually needs to be reached. So I really do feel that we simultaneously need to look at also examples, different ways of reaching children beyond digital, and we haven't really come up with any solutions yet, but that's something which I think we collectively really need to apply our minds to.
Has any library activity struck you as particularly mention worthy in this time?
I think some of the efforts, not just with sharing of resources, but creating a meaningful learning experience around it. For example, in some of our own teams, initially the beginning was to try and share a few links of good stories or some reading material, but then soon the realization was that unless you help create some kind of a meaningful dialogue and sharing and reflection around it, there is very little probably learning that is going to come out of it, even if that story probably was wonderful and it left you motivated. But for it to turn into a meaningful learning experience, when you structure it in a way that there is sharing of some resource, but there is also helping connect in an online way with other educators, sharing their experiences and thoughts around it. So I think some of the groups I do see who have been able to use these opportunities in meaningful way, but I think a lot of it still is in a space where groups are experimenting with things and trying to explore what makes the learning experience richer and more powerful. So I think if we stay with that, hopefully we will come up with ways in which the online learning can be made more meaningful beyond just opening up of resources and those being available.
So Amrita, my last question to you would be, we trust that many of our listeners and library workers. Do you have a thought or message that has been illuminating for you?
But vis-a-vis the library community, I just find that all of us do know that stories is what really makes us human, and their importance is going to be always there, and more so in these difficult times. So I think for the library community, I just would like to say that keep faith and keep trying, even if we don't know the perfect way of reaching children or those who need us most. I think what we have in our hand is to keep experimenting and keep trying, and I think that's what will keep us going. So that's really the thought that I would like to share with fellow educators.
Thanks a lot, Amrita, for sharing your thoughts and experiences. It was indeed our pleasure to host you today. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time for the interview.
Thank you, Nayan, and thank you, Bookworm, for the amazing work that all of you do, and that energizes many of us who are watching and take inspiration from. So thank you.
This has been an episode of Live from Lockdown Library. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.